According to the World Health Organization, approximately 1 billion children aged 2 to 17 years old have experienced neglect in 2019. That is half of the population of the children in the world. Do you think child neglect is a no big deal? Think again. I'm Hafiza with my friend Asfa, and our speech will convince you that child neglect is a very serious consequential issue. Talking about child neglect, it is a global issue that also is happening in our own beloved country, Malaysia. 1 in 10 Malaysian children are neglected in various ways. Now imagine if the kids happen to be your sons, your daughters, your little sisters or brothers, your nieces or your nephews. What if you were the poor kids? How would you feel? Frustrated? Crushed and dejected? If you as an adult also will be devastated to be abandoned by those who are close and dear to you, let alone children who are still developing their emotional quotient, still learning how to deal with realities of life. Those neglected children are starving but having basic needs deprivation, crying in pain but having been left without treatment, requiring attention but lacking adequate supervision. These are the conditions that often being overlooked by parents and usually comes unnoticed, as some people claim that child neglect is not as severe as other forms of child abuse. Nevertheless, neglecting is indeed abusing, and unless you are heartless, you will feel pity and have a bliss of empathy and a sense of humanity. Hence, as the fate of our children is in our hands as parents or future parents, we must be aware of this serious issue. Child neglect is the absence of parental care and the failure to meet children's necessities, be it physical needs such as food, clothing or shelter, medical needs such as necessary medications, educational needs such as proper academic learning, or emotional needs such as psychosocial support. And we strongly believe it will cause many consequences towards the children's psychology. If you may now refer to our visual aid, you can see there are 2 main psychological consequences of child neglect. I will be talking about the first consequence, which is childhood depression, and my partner Asfa will be talking about the second consequence, namely behavioral issues. Now, we are moving to the first point. Child neglect will potentially lead to depression. Since the children are being neglected during their early stage of life, just try to wonder what will happen to the kids if they are not allowed to mature and to learn how to control their emotions in a safe space. Surely, they will not know how to adapt with the circumstances, which will cause them to turn to negative coping mechanisms. They will not be able to manage the negative feelings that come in their way, which will put them in a persistent guilt and sadness. They will feel unloved and unwanted by their family, which results in low self-esteem and profound loneliness. At the end of the day, the forsaken children will tend to encounter this particular mood disorder. Many studies have reported that a child who is abandoned usually has a high risk of struggling with depression. Either they face it now during their childhood, or they will develop the mood disorder later during their adulthood. This is in view of the fact that the neglect that they have undergone will indeed situate them in a deep trauma. Shockingly, studies also have revealed that some of the seemingly less traumatic types of childhood experiences, such as child neglect, actually cause greater harm than apparent maltreatment such as physical brutality. How shocking is that? In addition, children who have been subjected to child neglect too are 4 times more likely to acquire significant mental illness, namely depression, compared to the other children, according to a study by the University of Birmingham. Having said that, this clearly signifies the prevalence of childhood depression among the neglected children. It is even more worrying and saddening, as the symptoms of childhood depression are typically misinterpreted as typical emotional and psychological changes, leaving the ailment undetected and untreated. The signs are simply passed off as normal gloominess and everyday emotions, despite depression is very different from sadness as it interferes with their daily activities and life. This is certainly a serious consequence of child neglect. Does everyone, including you and me, have to be very concerned of this matter, with the purpose that not a single precious child will have to go through this miserable ordeal.